Hi. Let's see if I pop up on the iPad. Let's start this. Sorry, I'll tell you what, listen to this. I'm going to do it properly. Hi there, and welcome to another live Rise and Row with RowAlong. There we go, that's a proper intro, rather than mine just kind of going, hi, how are you? Let's see anyway if I pop up on here. It still says waiting, which is a little bit worrying. So maybe I'm here, maybe I'm not. I don't know, maybe I'll just pop up. I think yesterday when I was, there we go, there I am. Yesterday I did a live stream and there's like a 20-second delay between the two. So I don't know, if I clap my hand now, 1, 2, 3. Oh, well, okay. So it's a 3-second delay between me clapping here and me seeing it on YouTube. So that's quite good news when it comes to trying to row along together. When it comes to the kind of, if we're going to start doing things like sprints and whatever, which I'm not entirely sure whether I'll do today. I'll explain more about that in a second. But we need to get our tech stuff all sorted, yeah, because that's how we start. Everything seems to be fine. I mean, I can see myself on YouTube, so that's all right. That's a nice narcissistic start to the day. I figure you can hear me. I can see the little meter going up and down. I don't want to turn this up. Newbie, please explain target heart rate and stroke per minute. All right, so that's from Matthew. So see, this is what happens. I get so easily derailed. So I'll address your thing. There isn't really for this one. It's especially because it's Sunday mornings. Don't know if you're joining us from somewhere in the UK, in which case it is still Sunday morning. Maybe you're elsewhere and it might be Sunday evening, Sunday at 4 o'clock in the morning. Who knows? But the Sunday rows don't really have a kind of a proper structure to them. What I tend to do, and what I'll probably do today, is I'll start off at a very kind of gentle row in order to get my body all warmed up, because as you can see, I'm not warming up right now. Please feel free to warm up, make sure you're ready. So the first 5 minutes will just be about easing up my hips and all that stuff, and then I'll kind of maybe talk a little bit about techniques so that everybody's on the same ballpark when it comes to how I explain rowing. And then what I tend to do is I'll row the majority of the row at the zone 2 heart rate, okay? So that we're talking kind of like 60 to 70% of heart rate. So that's one way to look at it. Or if you're used to doing 2K training pace, then you're looking at kind of round about 2K plus 18 to 20 at round about 20 strokes a minute. Now, zone 2 and that 2K plus 18 to 20, they try to come together, but then they can diverge, that's the right word, quite quickly in that the 2K plus 18 to 20 doesn't allow for like cardiac drift, depending on your fitness and stuff. You're just going to keep on pushing through at that pace. So eventually, although they align zone 2 and 2K, so I mean zone 2, they kind of do that and then they align for a while, but then what happens is that the 2K pace, your heart rate will go up and you'll kind of go away from that zone 2. Does the hand actions there make any sense to you at all? Hopefully it does. Good morning, Fairchild 707. Yeah, so that's kind of what I tend to do. I'll kind of row that 2K plus 18 to 20 or zone 2. But then when we hit a sprint, I'll then sprint, okay? So rather than it being a 30-minute row, just kind of a 20 strokes a minute zone 2 thing, I'll kind of add in those little bursts to give it a little bit more exciting. Now, the benefit, depending on whether you're doing this on the EXR app as well as watching me on YouTube, the benefit of doing it on the EXR app is that because, in fact, I tell you what, I'm going to pause there, because what we'll do is we'll get connected and we'll find out how many people are going to be on the river, right? So it doesn't really matter. I've given you the answer, so I can just now go on to other stuff. So you can see I have Connect Rower top left here on the screen. There you go. So Connect Rower. I've just turned on my PM5 and you can see it's popped up. So it should just take a second. While it's taking a second to connect, I will set my watch to row indoor. I might as well start it now. Now I don't normally do this, but just for the sake of it, I'm going to change to EXR split instead of rower data, because I always pick the rower data. So just to see what happens, I'm going to try EXR split. Right, and then heart rate monitors, and you can see it sees my Epix Pro, which is the watch. Currently, it thinks I'm doing 24 strokes a minute though, so that's a little bit finish setup. And what it should do is because I went to extragame.com/events and I clicked participate on this morning's Rise and Row with RowAlong, you can see it says it's about to start. Do you want to go? So yes, of course I want to go. It's my row. There we go. And let's see. There we go. How many? Right. So 57 people. Now I can get back to answering you, Matthew. Is that if you are doing this? All right. So you're UK. If you're doing this on the EXR app, there are 57 other people on the water here. So you can also just pick a group that you want to hang around with. So there'll be some people that are going to do this at like, well, who knows, let's say 2 minute pace, 205 pace, 155 pace. There might be some that are down at 215, 230, 245. So you can kind of find your own group and kind of hang around with them. And then this is where things like actually with the EXR app itself, if you start to use things like the Discord voice channel and you can talk to each other, you can then kind of get through. So this is, the app has like a great, I don't know, what's the right word? Growth expansion. There's many different ways you can do it. So the YouTube thing is fantastic because basically you can just watch me and you can row along, you can listen to my drivel and you can like kind of go, oh look, it's like being on the water. But if you want the full experience of this and you want the full experience of kind of rowing with it, I do not have 150 heart rate. Do not worry, hang on. There's probably some flapping arms around. Yeah, so the full experience of the EXR app, you get a 14-day trial. I'm not trying to, well, am I trying to sell it? I guess I am kind of doing this to promote EXR, so I guess I am trying to kind of say, but yeah, you get a 14-day trial with EXR, so you might as well try it out for 1 week just to see if it works for you, if you're on a rowing machine that will connect to it. If you have Bluetooth, it'll connect to it. Right, so pick how you want to do it. If you want to just kind of follow what I'm doing, I guess I'm going to be probably starting off around about 210 pace, and then I might go out to around about 205 and whatever. It just depends. That depends really. I'm not rode a stroke this morning, and I'll explain why I'm in a little bit about it. So my Mac is trying to install something, and I'm really worried that it's about to kind of go, I now must restart, and then everything will just go completely Pete Tong at that point. Who else has said good morning this morning? Loads of people. Tech Toby, hello Tech Toby. Colin Teasdale, morning, glad to be back, and the 9 a.m. starts. I know. Listen, I know some people. I have to weigh this up that because we're doing the flip flop, the 9 o'clock, 5 o'clock thing. What it means is that I've kind of halved the availability for people. But what it does is it's allowed the 5 o'clock people to kind of join in. And so I know. Once we get back into autumn and winter, we'll just go back to the 9 o'clock in the morning. I think we'll see. Or maybe I could do with a minion and next me. All right, I'm now, CBDBs now both use YouTube and EXR, which is great, which means that you can listen to my drivel. Hi. And you can then use that EXR app to get the best of that. Where are we? 5 minutes to go. Great. The Mac hasn't restarted yet. Marco, good morning. Darren, good morning. I was just say good morning, everyone. Been a couple of weeks. It's not a confession. It's been a couple of weeks since I last rode on EXR. That was more like my many Bothans died to bring us this information. Star Wars fans will understand that one. That and the it's a trap. That's my two things that I can do. Which actually is my it's a trap impression. It's a trap. It's very similar to my why so serious. Oh well. Morning, James. Monday. How are you today? Right, I'm going to tie my laces because I'm planning to do today. Am I going to do it strapless? Ooh, I don't know. See, what I'm kind of havering around is the fact that I did a big long run on the treadmill yesterday. I live streamed it as well. And it was 22, I was aiming for 25 kilometers, but I had to stop at 22 because my hip flexors both suddenly just kind of went on me. So I had to stop. And so I'm a little Borida from Nick Fox. So I had to, hang on, sorry. Morning, John, I'm on EXR and YouTube from Nicolette. So talking about my run, Tobias Deichler. Oh no, sorry. I just got a message from my wife saying, don't worry, you don't care about that. All right, so Nicolette's on both. So yeah, Tobias was watching at one point when I was doing my run. Right, where are we time-wise? 2:51. Oh gosh, sorry. I'll quickly. I forgot 2 minutes 51. My wife was away watching Taylor Swift in Liverpool last night, and they've obviously just woken up because I'm now getting like a barrage of messages. They obviously haven't remembered that I do my 9 o'clock rise and row. Anyway, right, I'm gonna have a swig of ambition. So I'll cover the mic. You don't want to hear this. Oops, I want to lift the top. Of course, maybe that made it worse. Maybe I held the microphone right against my chest and all you could hear is roar as it came down. Right, I still don't have 112 heart rate watch. It does think I'm like that. I don't know. Yeah, I figure I'm like 50 something, but wrist-based. See, I think I said this last week, maybe, but wrist-based sensors are very touch and go. Okay, whether they work for you or not, very touch and go, especially for rowing. But I'm a little high in my foot plates today. Why am I so high? Oh no, I'm not. It's just the strap was high. But my Apple Watch was really actually faithful to my heart rate. But I changed for the Garmin Epix Pro because of all the high rocks training stuff I was doing and just like having a mixed thing and a better battery life, it must be said. That was the big thing behind it. But the Garmin is really strange how it's currently reading 100 and, you probably won't be able to see it because I'm so small, but it's currently reading, well, you can see it because it's down there, 127 for me. And trust me, my heart rate is not 127. If anything, it's reading, the problem is it's reading 2 beats for 1 maybe, but, and then when it comes to rowing, we'll see how it gets on. But yeah, it's not really the best. Chest straps are by far the best. I mean, I used to be, because the Apple Watch works quite well, I used to say, oh no, you can use a wrist-based sensor, but I think a lot of the other ones, especially for rowing, are rubbish. So you're best with the chest strap. Right, I'm gonna, oh crikey. Oh, don't have the flexibility for that after yesterday's run. So yeah, so I'm gonna start off, if you haven't already heard me say it a few minutes ago, I'm gonna start off with a very gentle warm-up pace, just to make sure my body opens up and stuff, and then I'll increase to kind of round about that kind of zone 2E, 2K plus 20 pace. Maybe do some sprints depending on how I feel. But yeah, half an hour fun rowing ahead. Okay, oops, and we're off. Sorry, I was too busy looking at the iPad screen, which is, like I say, a few seconds behind. And so I was watching the countdown on that. Totally forgot that the countdown, I should actually be looking at my Mac and my iPhone, which I never actually finished off the tech chat there. So I've got my iPhone running EXR, which is then cabled into the Mac so that I can share the screen. And then I've got my iPad sitting down next to me, just in case, I don't know. I mean, I'd hope people won't message mid-row, unless you've got some voice to text thing going on. Or, I don't know, maybe you have someone sitting next to you and you're like, send this message to the man, please. Man, stop talking. Right. Oh, tell you one thing though. So it was 5 o'clock till 7 o'clock I did my run last night. And this is only, so I finished at 7. And tell you one thing, 14 hours doesn't feel like long enough recovery after doing that big long run and now being on a rowing machine. Maybe my heart rate was 100. There you go, so heart rate right now is 116, which I'd kind of expect at this point in a easy row. So maybe it just, like I say, my arms flapping around while I'm talking to you, or you know, whether the Garmin, like the algorithm for the actual heart rate sensor is different for rowing, that it kind of interprets movements. I don't know. Anyway, it's that my knee that's clicking? Or is it the foot plate? That's a little worrying. Hopefully it's the foot plate. So right, as we hit 3 minutes, hopefully bodies are warm, so you can start to think about what's going on with your body when it comes to technique. Okay, so let's just talk this for a couple of minutes, just so that we can then continue the rest of the row with the best of intentions. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk technique at you for 25 minutes. So let's start at the back. I like thinking about the stroke from the point. I'm not doing this sprint. Oh no, I missed it anyway. Yeah, so from the point when you pull the handle into your chest, that's where I start to think about the start of the stroke rather than the catch position. Because if you only think about here, chances are anything that's wrong with your stroke will already be wrong at this point, and there's not much you can do about it. So as you get the handle into your chest, release it smoothly, but at pretty much the same pace you pulled it in at. So in, out, okay? And you're not putting it up in the air. You don't need to scrape it down your legs unless you're trying to fix an early knee bend, or as part of your on the water rowing training. So if you're just a erg warrior like me, pretty much a straight line. You can, sometimes it helps to just think about rowing across the top of a table and then passing it underneath the table. So it's really just a slight relaxing of the handle height, which will help with, you just see so many people who are rigid. They're really like rigid when they row. And what you want is to be relaxed. So if you can, just relax your arms as they come forwards, but not so that they're loose and dragging. Remember, I always talk about zombie arms. So you go, zombie, without the raised shoulders. So arms come away, and then the momentum of the arms coming away helps with your upper body starting to tilt forwards too. And what you really want to do is think about not just kind of going but you want to kind of go rise. In fact, this is a great row to talk about this, rise and row, because I want you to rise up onto your sit bones and tilt forwards. So it's not a curling, a bending of your lower back. It's a tilting over your hips into a forwards tilt. Arms tilt. And then once your arms are away and you're tilted over your hips, that is when you bend your knees. So your knees don't bend. They can soften, but they don't bend until your hands are past them and you're in that forwards tilt. So if you find, you see this a lot, where it's like everything's coming in one, come to the back, then everything passes to the front. You are wasting energy, and really what the bigger issue there is consistency of the stroke, where it's kind of random what position you'll be in as you get to the front, especially when you start to increase stroke rates and power. So arms, rock, knees. Arms, body, legs. And that will let you slide into the front to the catch position with arms straight in that forwards tilt, up in your sit bones. And you just slide in until shins are vertical. And then once you get into that position at the front of the machine, you push out the front. Don't hang around at the front, just push. Like you want to waste no time. In fact, just concentrating on not wasting any time at the front. So my split drop from 210 to 205. Although extra split has me at 207. I don't think I like extra split. So yeah, so just roll in and then turn it around. Try not to lurch your back too soon in doing that. Try and hold that forwards tilt, arms straight, and push with the legs. Push. Let that power come from your feet, through your posterior chain, into your arms. And then only when your legs are around halfway through their drive do you then swing your body into that backwards tilt and pull in your arms. And you're aiming for wrists flat, okay? Not pointing up, not dumping down. And handle at roundabout sternum height, bra strap height, heart rate monitor height. Maybe if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, slightly underneath it. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, send your elbows to your sides, and that creates a kind of spring which helps with that release to get your arms out in front of you again, to start it all over again. There we go. A little bit longer than I said it would be. I was like 8 minutes, but I got a little bit carried away. So, one thing I don't really say often is the need to engage your core at the drive. That if you don't actually connect feet to hands through an engaged core, all that happens is this. A really kind of lackluster, oh, I'm gonna go back to top speed again. Really lackluster, soggy push that doesn't go into the machine. And I'm not talking like the same as if you were about to get punched in the stomach. It's not like a real tense, it's a brace. It's kind of, I don't know, if you were, like when you do a press up, you have to brace your core. I'm trying to think, I still haven't, answers on a postcard for a good way to describe like an analogy I can use for how much you brace your core in the stroke. I was out kayaking yesterday and talking about this with the guy who's leading the paddle, because there are quite a lot of similarities between kayaking and rowing in terms of connecting the core and just the importance of technique and things, even if technique itself is entirely different. And he was saying it's like if you were pushing a door closed, you can do that with your upper body, like your arms, sorry. Don't really need a core for that. But if you were pushing something away to the side, you have to engage your core. But I still don't think that's the best way to describe it. Sorry, Len. So yeah, let me know how you'd explain it, if you know what, provided you know what I'm on about. Ooh, right, hang on. I want to just check. Don't have any sprints coming up yet. I see a yellow arrow in the distance, so maybe that's one. My heart rate is 131, so that's top end of zone 2 right now for me. So I know I might start the upcoming sprint, see what the result of it is. But I think as much as I'm blaming last night's run for my hip flexors, I actually know it was the 2-hour kayak journey around the Carron Valley Reservoir in the morning that kind of triggered my hip flexors, and they were kind of primed to be sensitive. And then the run didn't help. I do enjoy the run stuff though. It's nice to mix things up. I mean, I was a cyclist. There's Andrew Fielden, how are you? I was a cyclist for a while, that's all I did when I was trying to lose weight. And then I had a crossover point of a couple of years where I started rowing, but I was still cycling mostly as my commute to work. And I do think that the mix of training, cycling and rowing was more beneficial to me than the couple of years that followed, where I stopped cycling and just all I did was row. Everything was rowing. I'd still like jump on the bike in the studio for like a warm-up, or if I just couldn't face a row one day, I'd maybe jump on it, or if I was at the gym, all the rowing machines were taken, I'd go on the watt bike. But there's something different to being in the gym on a watt bike to trying to get to work, racing from traffic light to traffic light. Hang on, I'm going to shut up for a second. So I'm pretty sure that sprint, either I've missed it or about to hit it. And the fact that I'm going 2 seconds slower with extra splits compared to my PM5 is not filling me with joy. When it comes to the sprints, it's Andrew. I normally get into a bun fight with Andrew Fielding when it comes to these sprints. What is it? 350, okay. All right, after this stroke, I'm gonna take it up. So stroke rate goes up, power from legs goes up. And that power is part helping with the increase in stroke rate, and then also an increase in power. So I'm going 20 seconds faster than I was before. 150 meters to go. It's not really a sprint, but I know my body is so not up for a full-on sprint. Oh, right. Just ease back in. So when you do efforts like that within a long, slow row, ideally you want to return to your cruise pace instantly. So like you'll have seen, I stopped entirely for a few seconds, but if you're trying to improve your fitness, power, your ability to hold intensity, then to always try and get back, because you will recover when you return to your low intensity base. You just don't think you will. You finish the sprint and you're like, I need to stop. But a minute into low intensity, you'll realize you didn't. So where was it? Oh yeah, so cycling. And I really think the cycling helped with basically what I was just talking about, that kind of high intensity for periods of time, because it's really easy to stop on a rowing machine or even on a exercise bike, to ease off and go, I can't hold this anymore. But when you're on a bike in the flow of traffic and you're trying to hold like 20 miles an hour, if you ease off, you kind of cause, well, it's kind of dangerous really if you don't do it at the right time, especially in rush hour or in rush hour Glasgow. Lots of people who are trying to get past you anyway, and are quite often right on your backside. So if you suddenly stop, could cause your own accident, even though it's them being up your backside. You get what I mean? So anyway, then I just rode for a couple of years, and I was still winning races. I was still got the world records, but there was a definite something missing. I think around about the same time, I had a rather unfortunate accident with a meat knife, which kept me off the machine for 6 months. I could tell my performance was dropping anyway. I was starting to get bronze medal or 4th place, or remember the Worlds in 2017, feeling really kind of like, what just happened? And I do think it was stopping cycling that took away my suffer ability. Right, I'm not doing this one. On you go, Andrew, do it yourself. So, luckily out of the ashes of my rowing success, or personal success, RowAlong was born. So, in many ways, it was a blessing. But I've still found, even when coming back, that it makes sense to mix up training. So even since the hand accident, because I use cycling to keep my fitness up just on Zwift. So an indoor trainer, cycling with my hand in a cast. But I still do that. I think that's where I then really attached myself to this High Rocks thing. If you haven't heard about it, just go search. But it's running and lots of functional exercises, including rowing. And although maybe I'm not a rowing specialist like I was back in 2015-16, I'm definitely all round stronger and fitter because I do things like ski erg and running and all the pushing and pulling, farmers' carries and things that High Rocks needs. And so I'm hoping that either this season coming or certainly next season when I turn 50, if I can just keep an eye on weight, should be able to return to proper indoor rowing racing as a lightweight and get back to where once I was. Actually, on Monday past, I know this is all about me today, I'm sorry. I weighed myself and took a whole bunch of measurements like body fat, muscle, like through the scales. I wasn't like out with calipers. And then the past week, I've been, like sometimes I can go into diet lockdown anyway, where I don't eat or drink rubbish. But like at the weekend, I'd allow myself some biscuits and stuff. But this past week, I've had absolutely no refined sugar. I mean, possibly there'd been like sugar in the pasta sauce, but I tend to make my own pasta sauce with like chopped tomatoes and stuff, so don't often use a jar of pasta sauce. I mean, I eat lots of pasta, so in terms of carbohydrates, I'm not lacking. But anyway, the past week, really zero tolerance for anything that wasn't lunch or dinner, so I don't eat breakfast. A little bit of white bread, which isn't good for you, but again, sometimes it's all that's there. I know sourdough is better than white bread with all its preservatives, but I don't know whether supermarket sourdough is the same as the artisan stuff. So anyway, all of this to say, I was 78.9 on Monday, and it'll be interesting to weigh myself tomorrow with all the healthy eating and 22-kilometer runs in my body. One more stroke for me. Just over 7k. I'm happy with that, I suppose. Although, again, the PM5 had that at just under 7,200, so I think EXR split is based on weight and stuff as well. Gear and things dad. Morning all, love training in the morning. So do I, to be honest. The whole day's ahead now. Don't have to think about, oh, I've got squeeze in a row or whatever. The entire day's there. So, but then it can always be, so all you have to do is go to the YouTube channel and load up one of my rows. It doesn't have to be a live one. Oh, right, so make sure and keep rowing and cool down and stuff. Don't just stop just because I am. But I want to make sure and go and no coffee incoming, or now coffee incoming. Hang on. Cheers. Thanks, John from Down Under. Oh, wow. So hang on, if you're down under, I guess that means around about 9:30ish at night for you. So hello to the future. Finish at the same time, good. Right, okay, so as much as I'm saying, hey, I've got the whole day ahead of me, I basically, because Julie and the girls have been away, I have to go and do the hoovering and all that stuff. It's a pleasure, Nick. I'm glad. It was a little bit of a long technique thing, and then a little bit about me just kind of talking about how rowing on its own is fantastic, but actually, if you mix things up, you actually get better. If you're just doing, depending on what your goals are, if you are just doing this for health and fitness and a bit of performance, then mix in the things you do. Go for a run as well as a row and things if you can, all right? So that's the whole thing. So yeah, thanks, Nick. Thanks for coming along. You have a great day. And Ben, thank you to you too. Nicolette, from the Netherlands. See, so the whole kayaking thing, my plan is to try and work out a weekend or a week or whatever I can take off, because I really want to take the kayak to the canals in Amsterdam and film on them. So that's kind of that's my first, because I've been filming quite a lot on the lochs and canals in Scotland. And eventually I'm going to go down and do like the Lake District and stuff. But I want to do a trip and actually go to Amsterdam and do the canals there and whatever. So that's hopefully incoming. But Marco, thanks for coming. Matthew, thanks, John. EXR and YouTube on trial for EXR and enjoyed it. Great, and great sprint. Hope you had a good sprint. It was like it's a fast little, that 350 meters of a sprint is because it's over a minute and you're like, oh, hang on. The like 100-meter ones, yeah, it's easy just to blast through them and you're just going to go, oh. But there's a point in that 350 where you're like, I don't know if I can keep this up at that point. Well, that's how I felt. Marco, catch some breath and cool down. Row. Good. Fab, thanks everyone. Thank you. Oh, and the last thing, I knew I'd forget. So Joanne Blundell, I'm so sorry, has been rowing 80 kilometers as in memory and remembrance, whatever, for D-Day. It's D-Day, isn't it? For the Royal British Legion. And so she joined us this morning, and I knew, skip Amsterdam, come to The Hague. Well, I could do, okay. I'll finish this before I start reading then. So I knew I'd forget. I'm so sorry, Joanne. I can't even think how I can't really make up for that. Hopefully you're still rowing and listening right now, and you can, I'm so sorry. I feel quite guilty because we had been messaging the past couple of days. And I'm like, I'll try and remember. I should have put a post-it on the screen and said, remember to talk about Joanne. Even the fact that you messaged right before we started and it still went out of my brain. I was too busy talking about myself, which is awful. So even when I said, sorry, this is all about me, I should have thought, hang on, should I not be talking about it? Anyway, so good luck with the rest of your 80 kilometers. Everyone try and, on Facebook, you should be able to find her, and then go and donate to the Royal British Legion, which I will do when I'm done today, if I can find a link for a donation. And then, yes. Okay, who did you say, John? Joanne? I'm doing that too. Oh, how are you? It's Helen Hogan. So try and find Joanne. I'll try and, if I can find a profile, I'll email it to you, but or ping it to you. But yeah, Joanne Blundell. Yeah, unless you never know, maybe I had a brain fart and that's not her name, in which case that's awful. But yeah, so so try and find a donate and whatever. And I'm so sorry for not talking about you during it. There was one comment. Right, so just Paul, I just want to answer this one just in case it's hi, I think I'm pulling too hard as I now have golfer's elbow with pain in the forearm. Trying to think push with the legs. Yeah, so that could be a combination of a couple of things. It could be that your drag factor is too high, like your lever set too high, and so therefore you're having to kind of overcome the weight of the machine by pulling early. Like even if you just like, if I'll do it this way, I don't know if you can see from there, but if you go and bend the elbows. Oh, there's Joanne messaging me. In fact, actually I'm going to, hang on, if I go continue. Sorry, I'll finish your thing in a minute, but stop rowing. Oh, no, actually, I tell you what, I'm going to disconnect, save session. I'll disconnect the phone so you don't see me firing up the message. See if this is her saying, you're a monster. Hi John, I'm carrying on now for another 3 kilometers and I should finish tomorrow. Okay, so yeah, so that is Joanne Blundell. Could be Blundell rather than Blundell, maybe. But yeah, so do find her, and everyone could support and whatever. I'm so sorry for not talking about you, having a message. Sorry for not talking about you during the actual row. I'm a monster. There you go. Hopefully she'll understand. Maybe you're watching right now, so you got that. Anyway, right. Yeah. So if you even just activate your elbows like that, if you can see it, I hope you can. Just at the catch, and you just kind of, you're bent. Suddenly you're taking all the force. As an edge. Okay. So is it Andrew Fielder just saying that he's got to take the kids to, well, maybe you're going to Taylor Swift at Wembley. You're saying, oh, it's the kids. But I'd love to have gone to see Taylor Swift, to be honest. Yeah, so if you bend those elbows early at the catch instead of staying straight and letting the power flow through your arms, it really does activate right up here and whether it's, yes, I am. Whether it's above or below your listen, excuse me, where elbow problems come is from that early kind of pull, and so that can happen anyway. Doesn't matter where your drag factor set is. You can get people that just kind of like take up that tension, think it helps to kind of just bend their arms. But certainly when you start to row at a higher drag factor, people will tend to kind of really grunt against it and pull, and all the force is then kind of put right here in your elbows, or that joint going through, rather than it coming down through your tendons and whatever. Because you wouldn't, again, I talk about hanging off a pull-up bar, right? So next time you're at the gym or next time you're at a tree or whatever, find something that you can hang off, right, like a pull-up bar. In fact, oh no, I'm not gonna. I was gonna spin the camera around and I could demonstrate, but I'm not gonna. I've got a video up here somewhere which will show you what to do for this, so you can look at that. But you hang from a pull-up bar. Hang on, my hand's going to go out of screen, but there they are. You hang from a pull-up bar. Am I? Oh no, they are fine. So you hang like arms straight, all the power goes up through your arms, your tendons, your ligaments, and that's how you hang, okay? Everything's just rooted down. There's not really muscles, it's all about ligaments. But you wouldn't then bend your elbows and kind of like, because the moment you're holding yourself there and it's all about muscles, that's when it goes. And it's the same with a rowing stroke, okay? This is fundamentally the way to describe how you hang off the stroke, is that if you can keep those arms straight as you drive with the legs, all the power goes through, and it's only here that you pull in, and therefore you're kind of finishing off the power that's already been started, and it should ease up your elbow, or at least it wouldn't have caused your injury in the first place. So now if you lower the drag factor and really think about straight arms and then pulling into the finish, and even if you have to back off the power and stuff in order to kind of get through your rows, to be honest, I had wicked golfer's elbow on one elbow and wicked tennis elbow on the other elbow, and what cured it was COVID. I mean, it sounds awful, but COVID was what fixed my elbows because it forced me off the machine for 3 or 4 weeks. I couldn't row for 3 or 4 weeks, and that time then gave my elbows a chance to recover, because frankly, if you are rowing for, say, I mean, give this a go for another couple of weeks, see if lowering the drag factor and really concentrating on straight arms and like obviously rest, ice, compression, elevation, all that kind of stuff, massage where it hurts and things, like do all the things that you're meant to do, tiger balm, blah, blah, to try and help. But if after 2 or 3 weeks it's just not going, stop rowing, jump on the bike instead, give your arms a chance to recover, because your elbows they just don't want to recover when you're carrying on using them. I mean, I've got a bicep injury, like everywhere around here. I've got a bicep injury right kind of here, that just keeps on flaring up, that I just can't get rid of because I continue to row. And it's kind of causing other problems, but I just continue to row and continue to row. This is one of the reasons I keep on putting off the CTC, the Cross Team Challenge, is because it's 624 meters at full whack. And I'm like, my arm's just not ready for that. But the problem is, I don't think I'm going to be ready for that this month because my arm's just not ready. So I think my summer holiday maybe will be when I'm not rowing for a couple of weeks, and hopefully then it'll heal. So yeah, anyway, sorry. Crikey, loads of people have been talking. Right, I'm just going to say quickly and then I'm going to go, because again, as usual, my Tesco delivery is about to come up. So where are we? Who just said, okay, Helen says, thanks, I'll look out for her. Thanks a lot, John. Have a nice one all from Tobias. Did Deichler? Deichler? Do you actually pronounce the E, or is it Deichler? Tobias Deichler. David Palos? Now I'm going to say, is that Italian? Grazie? If it's got the S, I must be. Grazie? Prego. Matthew Isaac. Paul, oh, here we go. Paul, play the piano, the fingers on the, oh, right, there we go. I thought it was actually literally, Paul, play the piano with fingers on the handle on the return, and it frees up the forearms. That's a great, I mean, I don't know if you're still here, Paul, but that is a great idea. So if you're really, because the other thing is that people who are on the handle and they grip the life out of it, so you can see how, I don't know if you can, but you can see like my fingers right now are gripped all over it. If you just kind of loosen up, a lot more relaxed and wobbly, then you're taking the tension out of your elbows in the first place. And as Matthew says there, instead of like coming back and you're still really tense as you come in, because that point here, as you come forwards, even I can see with my kind of not very muscly forearms, I can see that it's kind of bulging out there. Whereas as you return, if you just kind of wiggle your fingers on the handle as you come in, you have to be loose to just wiggle when you come in, and you're fine. And it keeps your hands loose and floppy, which then helps with the fingers over the handle, so you're hooked on, which helps with that hang rather than being gripped. Because the moment you grip the handle really tight, that kind of promotes that thought of like, I want to feel and tug and pull and whereas if you've got your fingers hooked over the handle, it's a lot more graceful and kind of likely. But also because with your fingers hooked over the handle, you can see my thumbs are underneath but loose, all of the airflow I now get in my hands helps to prevent, I'm not going to say you don't sweat, but it helps to prevent over sweating. And the problem with sweating is A, slippy handle, but also when you sweat, your skin gets soft, and then that's where like blisters are like, hello, I'd like to blister now. So that's what the thing. So there we go. Hey, and Tobias says I pronounced it correct. So Deichler. Okay. And he's like, no, that's not the way. Anyway, right, listen, I'm going to go because, like I say, I've got to go do the shopping and the hoovering and the ironing and stuff before the girls all get back from Liverpool and Taylor Swift. So thank you so much for joining me today. It was great fun. It's actually really eased me up. So again, it just shows how something like that, after kind of like hobbling around the house this morning going, blooming heck, I can't move. That's really helped me so I can go. I've got band practice in a couple of hours. I've got to go sit at a drum kit for 3 hours, so I'm glad that that's eased me off. Quite having to do the ironing and the dusting and the hoovering and the stuff while I'm in a recording studio playing the drums. May not have thought that one through. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me this morning, folks. Remember, next week, where are we? We're the 16th, so next week, Andrew Fielden won't be here because he'll be seeing Taylor Swift. But I will be here at 5 o'clock because it's the sunset row to allow our American friends or people in other time zones to kind of join in as well. And then after that, there's going to be a couple of weeks break. Okay, so I'm going to take a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks for summer. Remember, I just said about my elbow and stuff. So, and then we'll be back at one point, but I'll let you know exactly when it all kind of kicks off again. But apologies for that, but I need a holiday. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a fantastic week coming up ahead. I hope you do fun things, or if you're at work, I hope you manage to do fun things out of work. Make sure and keep rowing, stay strong, eat well, be happy. Yeah, and I think that's kind of really what you say, be happy. There's not really much all else you can say, is there? So thank you so much for joining me today. I'm going to try and do this in a way where I can do stop streaming here so I can actually say goodbye properly and then just click the button to go rather than the double end. So thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Row well.